Combat. From one button push of your keyboard can translate to a major cooldown leading you to top damage, or even the very clean blow leading to a major boss kill. The flow of abilities rotating through a variety of fun, exciting, and hopefully instantaneous responses from the server. The major topic on everyone's mind when it comes to Ashes of Creation is, how will the finished version of combat end up being? Will they stick to their guns to a hybrid combat system, or will they go strictly action-based? Hi, my name is Vlhadus, and this is Vlhadus Gaming, and today I'm going to be asking the question, what if combat fails in Ashes of Creation? Now that we're talking about failure, how does a company fail on combat? Well, that can be a very loaded question. You see, any combat system isn't just pushing a button on your keyboard and the ability instantaneously working. There's a lot of nuances behind the scenes to make a successful combat system. When I push a button, does that ability make it fun for me to push and kill monsters with, or does it give me a very hesitant feel? Your brain gets dopamine while playing games, so your reactions to anything in-game has a great impact on how you perceive your fun. Pushing buttons and having fun, great experience. Pushing buttons and not having fun because of the lack of responsiveness and unfun abilities and sounds, you probably won't play that game for too long. I have spent a lot of my time in the WoW combat system, almost 16 years, and it is hailed as one of the gold standard combat systems in the MMO genre. So in this video, I will go over several MMO combat systems like World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, Star Wars The Old Republic, and Lost Ark. I wanted to get a good gauge as to why people prefer WoW's combat over a lot of the other games. I think many of the major MMOs have come a long way to fix their combat systems since their launches, but first impressions are very important. To start things off, let's talk about Star Wars The Old Republic's combat system first. BioWare had an extremely rocky start to their launch of Star Wars back in 2011. From unexpected crashes to the actual launcher not working, the incredible lag in-game from thousands of people trying to play, it was an unpleasant experience to say the least. I want to specifically talk about the combat for SWTOR, however, these things that were happening left a poor taste in a lot of people's minds. You only get a first impression once. And I asked a good friend of mine, Zillan, since he was a longtime SWTOR player, his experience and did a little research from there. I did play at the beginning of the launch, just not on launch day myself. My memory of it was fondly remembered well because I loved the main story quest and played as a Sith Marauder. The system the game was built on was a modified version of the hero engine. I'm saying this because this plays into the combat a little later. Personally, I think this game was undercooked at the start. Corporate deadlines are always the major pain point in any development. With a plethora amount of bugs, in-game issues, and crashes, combat never stood a chance to even be properly executed. People like myself and many others couldn't enjoy swinging a lightsaber because of all of the core system issues. When lag wasn't an issue, or you weren't glitching to the next cinematic, there wasn't a fluid or stable animation involved in the combat that felt natural or quick enough to feel good at the swing. Therefore, it is so important to get your core systems working properly so you can enjoy everything the MMO has to offer at launch, not having to wait for the next patch to finally play the game right and stable. As time went on, the hero engine wasn't the issue, which was the main criticism of why everything, including the combat, failed. The developers simply failed in their execution to finish core system polish and hammer out all of the bugs that plague the Old Republic. Is combat better now in the game? Absolutely. Are people playing SWTOR in 2022? Yes, but not in the way people thought this WoW killer would be populated today. Star Wars is a major IP and should have millions of people playing this MMO. Was the combat the main culprit of why SWTOR was bad? No, not even close. As explained, the developers needed more time and the corporate overlords denied their request, thus making SWTOR an MMO almost forgotten in 2022. Final Fantasy XIV. Talking before A Realm Reborn is unfair to say the least. So how did the combat feel at the beginning of A Realm Reborn? Well, just like any release of an MMO by a corporate entity, followed by server and congestion issues, but once people were in the game, it was a decent enough experience combat-wise. Server delay and ability syncing was a bit of an issue, but not a problem. When you have a decent experience in Final Fantasy compared to a flawless experience in World of Warcraft, the smoothness in WoW is just better. And in my opinion, Final Fantasy didn't have terrible combat, it just wasn't responsive as WoW's. When people push a button for a spell, they want to see it on screen the moment it's pushed. Your internet connection can play a strong factor in that. The server responsiveness is measured of how quick the ability you push gets done on screen. To a lot of people, it's the feeling of how the button feels to push in the game that matters. The animations and sounds were very good and only got better with time. Final Fantasy XIV didn't appeal to many people because of the perceived notion of the failed 1.0 launch. Those first impressions, man, they do matter. Unlike many companies, the lead game designer, Yoshi P, apologized for the botched launch of 2.0. With grit and determination, Final Fantasy XIV would slowly become one of the best and most subbed MMOs because they never stopped serving their players and knew what kind of game they wanted to be. Personally, I think the combat was solid and only improved with time. All people needed was someone huge to test the waters of Final Fantasy and say, hey, come in, the water's fine. Moving on to Lost Ark. Now, I played this game with a crappy internet connection, and the gameplay and combat was so much fun. Super stylized combat with flashy sounds and brutal animations. I have nothing but great things to say about Lost Ark's combat system. This game was originally released in Korea in 2018. The closed beta lasted here in the United States for about a week in November. That was my first experience with Lost Ark. Also, I really dig the asymmetric style because I'm a Path of Exile and Diablo player myself. I play those games very casual, so I'm not an expert or anything. I just like the aesthetic and super dark tone and flashy combat. With the asymmetric style, I think action combat fits right with this MMO. I'm not a huge fan of the action combat when it's done in the non-asymmetric style like in New World or ESO. I'm a tab-enhanced player through and through and hope Ashes of Creation can really place themselves in a tab-enhanced game and drop the action combat side personally. Going back to Lost Ark, when the game launched back in 2018, it was hard to find people talking bad about the combat and how it felt. I did find an old Reddit post, so take that as you will, and found it to be quite insightful, and again, combat wasn't the issue. I will show you the post on screen so you can see the points this person made about the negative side of Lost Ark at launch. So, if you're an action combat person and want a fun, brutal, flavorful MMO to play, then Lost Ark is coming very soon. I think once this game comes out, games like New World really won't stand a chance. Now, let's talk about my main game for so many years, World of Warcraft. Why was WoW's combat regarded so well back in 2004? Well, I can't comment on other games at the time such as EverQuest 2, Lineage, Age of Camelot, and ArcAge since I didn't play them. I would assume that their combat just wasn't as fluid as WoW's even back in 2004. Also at the time, World of Warcraft was grabbing gamers from all sides of the gaming market and growing very rapidly. Not even Blizzard could account for so many people wanting to play their own game. From server instability issues, login queues from the immense people trying to play. Same kind of story as Final Fantasy XIV. Once they were in the world, people got to quest and grind their way to one of the smoothest combat experiences ever. Again, my opinion, but people always talk about the WoW standard of combat. I might have been a WoW fanboy like all the rest back in the day, but that doesn't mean I'm hyping up a combat style just because I played it for so many years. The quality, the polish only got better as the game went on. Now, fast forward to present day, even the smoothest and most polished combat system in the MMO genre, combat isn't keeping people to play WoW any longer. Combat can only go so far. The day-to-day questing, storytelling, PvP, raiding, casual fun gameplay, they all must be there in today's market to survive. One system, even combat, isn't going to carry a game no further without the rest of the game being served to the players in a meaningful way. Serve your players correctly. Hear their concerns. Don't invalidate their fun with metrics, quarterly earnings reports, and microtransactions. I'm not just talking about WoW anymore. Any MMO should respect their players. Building a game for money and corporate greed, players know who those games and studios are, and they are looking for a studio that was created by gamers for gamers. That's why I moved on from World of Warcraft, looking towards the future, to Ashes of Creation. I'm talking about these games and their initial starting lines because I feel that when Ashes of Creation comes out, there will be absolutely no excuse of, oh, it's an old engine, or they needed more time. That kind of talk won't fly for many people, including myself. Steven has said on many occasions that he will not rush Ashes. If the game is not ready, then it's not ready, and more time will go into production. Intrepid can't go back and forth with creative design decisions for too long, because people don't want to play Ashes in 2026. Is there a solid combat system design in Ashes? Yes, it's a hybrid combat system catering to both action combat players and tab players alike. Is that a good system to have in Ashes? I don't think so. because the amount of people who want Ashes to go completely action-based are still there. Same can be said about the tab target players. Neither, I think, are satisfied with Intrepid's decision of hybrid combat. And that's not a good look for new people who haven't seen a lot of the Ashes live streams or any content about the game. In Alpha 2, I know without a shadow of a doubt, combat will be the priority. I know it, you know it, everybody knows it. But what will they choose as their final decision? Who will win in the end? The action or tab target players? Leave your thoughts down below and let's see what Intrepid goes with. Either way, I'm excited about the future and the potential this game has. And if you haven't seen too much on Ashes of Creation, then stay tuned to my next video of this series. What if the node system fails? My name is Vlhadus, and thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.